Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lean Startup Melbourne. Apparently Lean Startup Melbourne is one of the largest startup events in Australia. And of course we have free beer, we love beer, and pizza, and a whole lot of great speakers, a great crowd. You'll meet co-founders here, you'll meet developers to work on your business, and those sort of grey, shadowy figures in the background are the men with the money. So you've got to find them too. So my name's Mark, I'm on the Lean Startup Melbourne committee. And so it's just a general welcome. And I'll first start off with some of the hiring. There's some startups that have some cash that may want to hire you. The first one is Mark Harrison. Mark, you in the room? Yeah. There he is, man in the check shirt. So Mark's looking for a front-end developer or two to join a team he's putting together for a new startup. He's interested in talking to experienced JavaScript developers with proven skills in developing single-page apps using frameworks like Angular and Ember. They have the funds to pay decent salaries. Sounds good to me. But have a preference to those who want equity as part of the package. Front-end devs is also interested in talking to full-stack developers and designers with basic dev skills. And if this isn't you, he's offering a reward if you find him someone. He's, see Mark tonight if you're interested, but the website address is listium, listium.com. Second hire is Scott Handsaker. Scott, there he is. CEO of Attendly. Attendly's event coordination, event management, event registration. Looking for a PHP engineer, not a developer, an engineer. You should be keen to work full-time in a venture-backed, revenue-focused startup based out of here in Spire 9, which is one of our sponsors tonight. See Scott for more information. Hire number 3, Tweaky. You've probably heard of Tweaky. They've got a lot of press here in Silicon Valley. They're looking for a talented Ruby on Rails developer, not a shit one, and to join their team in San Francisco. Find more at tweaky.com/careers. I'll speak to Ivan, who's here tonight. Where's Ivan? There's Ivan. Hi, number 4, Aussie Rig is an awesome little e-commerce startup currently going through the Angel Queue program. They have an interesting problem in that they have too many customers and are looking for sales and customer acquisition maestro to take a bit of the pressure off. What a tough place to be. If getting into a revenue positive startup sounds interesting to you, email Josh at Ozrig. Where's Josh? Is Josh here? Not here? Not here? So that's Josh at Ozrig, ozrig.com.au. And the last one is equity opportunity for someone keen to get started on a startup. Leslie and Dougal from GetViable. Where's Leslie or Dougal? There's Leslie. I've been working on a side project. Help Me Name at www.helpmename.com to solve the startup naming process. It's a smart but simple solution. They're looking for someone with personality and SEO, SEM, social media marketing skills to run and manage the product. They will pay you in a combination of profit share and pizza. No, and equity in the product. Contact Leslie at getviable.com. Just got to talk about our sponsors tonight. The reason you're all here and the reason why you've got free beer and you've got a roof over your head and free pizza is for the likes of Blue Chili's, a technology and software development company that creates online web applications and invests the software development in the online startup. An investment strategy they call venture technology, so they help build the thing for you and take equity. Alphastation Communications produces investor communication tools like IMs, information memorandums, to slide decks for emerging companies and startups. We make sure you're armed correctly when you pitch to angels, VCs or corporate investors. We've successfully helped people raise capital since 1998. I remember this, my first startup, we looked amateur and a dog. It took us till our third startup to actually look like semi-professional. The Kussowski Brothers. Hey, our video guys tonight, specialising in social media content creation and infrastructure, which involves the production of single or a series of marketing promotional videos. This is the boys down the front here. And of course, Inspire 9, which is the space you're in now. which is a great startup environment. You need a desk, you need 2 desks, you're going to grow. It's a great place to start if you're in Melbourne. It's a great environment. You can meet developers, you can grab someone from the other side of the room to fix up an image for you or whatever you need. And of course, SmartStartCity is a program designed to mash up corporate data, smart people and urban challenges into profitable startups. If you believe in the saying that data is king, then this company is providing a whole lot of Melbourne data from various government departments that may enable you to create a solution or a website, and there's actually funding involved. So if you want to get involved in that sort of community or infrastructure sort of space, SmartStartCity is probably a good port of call to go to. Dom from Alphastation.
Thank you. Just want to say thank you to Scott and the crew at Lean Startup for putting on a great event. Thanks also to the panelists and fellow sponsors whose contribution is essential. Thanks to all of you guys to basically, I think, everyone in the room has decided to take action over inaction, because as we know, Australia has always been a sort of a static economy in terms of mining and so on, so now we're transitioning to an innovation-based economy. So we need people like you to start the businesses of tomorrow. And the ecosystem in terms of lean startup, government grant applications, which we can help with, or securing funding through angels and other networks. Anyone can speak to me, and I'm happy to have a chat about strategies and putting stuff together. Last thing I wanted to mention is the topic for today, validating your business. I think that's of vital importance. People ask me, I want to get investment. How do I get investment? First thing you need to do is get proof. Validating your business is the most important aspect of securing any grant or investment. So listen to the content from today, pummel the panelists with questions, and hopefully get something from it. Thank you.
And SmartStartCity. David is. Yeah. David, welcome, David. Give him a round of applause.
To give you a bit of an introduction, my name's David Austin. I've done half a dozen startups, a couple of trade sales, a couple of inglorious face plants, one that went on to list on the NASDAQ, and a lifestyle business. What we're doing now is trying to see if we can get the... All right, we're on the way up. The reality is, and I imagine everybody in the room knows this, that... Yeah, we're getting there. We'll get there in a moment. The reality is startups are hard. And if anybody here thinks that startups aren't hard, and you actually have a startup, and you're making money, then I need to hear from you. Call me at this number, and I reckon we could do something a bit special. So we're doing something to change that. And what we've done is this. Startups, typically they get some help from various people, and they might have a location like this. But the one thing that big companies have, and startups traditionally haven't had, is access to really good data. So we've decided that we wanted to change that. And in doing that, we've worked with a dozen big companies. So actually, it's not just government organisations. What's different is we're working with commercial organisations, so telcos, banks, retailers, and persuaded them to release some of their data, set it free out of their silos. And obviously, there's some stuff that they're willing to release, there's some stuff they're not willing to release. But if you mash that data up in the right ways, you can make an enormous difference to a startup in how fast you can move and how viable your business model can be. So in doing that, we've also worked with the City of Melbourne, who've been amazingly generous in helping us identify problems and what it's worth to solve a problem. When I say that, I mean that we've quantified what it would mean if a startup were to find a way to fix something. So you have an understanding of the big picture there. Second thing we've done is we've given access to these big companies. I don't know who here has ever tried to get access to the senior levels of a big organisation. Was it great fun? Did it take a long time? Because our experience has been, look, it is hard work, but what we've done is we've gone out and done that, so then we can share that access with you, because it costs us nothing once we've done the hard work to share the access with you. So that's the second thing that we're doing, and that access is either for the data, sometimes it's a channel to market, and sometimes it may even be as an exit strategy. So the next thing that we've done is a physical location to do the work, a bit like this. It's a temporary thing. We'd see people on this 10-week process that we're going to offer. At the end of that, they're going to have a validated business model, and then they would naturally come to somewhere like Inspire 9 or one of the other hubs. So this bit's for the process. One of the things I've done subsequently to my startups is I've been lecturing at Melbourne Uni to the postgrad engineers and to the MBA students for the best part of 10 years now. And we've taken that stuff and that process, we've stripped out all of the academic stuff, we've just kept the useful bit, and we're offering that over a 10-week process and rather than paying the normal $4,000 or whatever it is that the MBA students get to pay, it's $150 a head. And we're doing that because we're working with the big companies, and in effect, the big companies are subsidizing the process. So you get a pretty special process for basically just enough to keep out the people who want free coffee. And the next thing is we're mashing into that process people who are currently doing MBAs or have recently done MBAs. So for those of you who've got a very strong technical bent, but you're not quite so strong perhaps commercially, gives you an opportunity to get access to those brains to help your businesses. And finally, the good news is we don't want any of your equity. We don't want your money. We just want you to be successful in doing these startups. Because if you do these startups successfully, that's good for Melbourne, and our overall encompassing goal is to do stuff that's good for Melbourne. So you get to keep all your equity. We're not asking for any of it. So finally, what I'm going to suggest you might want to do is we've got a meeting on the 22nd of July at the Town Hall in the evening, 6 o'clock. If you want to come along to that meeting, then go to the website, SmartStartCity.com, sign up for that evening, and you'll meet a lot of people. I mean, there'll be some of the same people who are in the room at the moment who come along to that, and a whole variety of other people, and find out the detail of the data and what it's about and how to make it happen. So, did I mention SmartStartCity.com? Did I mention sign up? Go to the website, that's the place. If you want a bit more information, we've got a bunch of these with a little bit of extra info if you've got a memory like mine. And thank you very much for your patience in listening.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our next lightning talk is from Ivan Lim. He's the marketing director of Tweaky.com, and he was an Angel Cube startup founder as well. Yeah. Ivan's going to talk to you about how to validate your idea using pay-per-click. We all want to be validated, and Ivan's going to tell you how to do it through pay-per-click. Go for it.
Hey guys, my name's Ivan. Just a heads up, when I sent through the slides to Scott Hansacker this afternoon, he said, the most entertaining part about tonight is seeing a guy go through 47 slides in 5 minutes. So hopefully all of you guys will be entertained, but let's get into it. So today I'm kind of talking about how to validate your startup idea using pay-per-click methods, right? And a lot of people are kind of against pay-per-click, and they're always like, look, I don't want to spend money. You end up wasting a whole lot of money, right? But my explanation or reasoning for it is that if this works, it doesn't work. No? Other way? Oh. There you go. A small amount of money for idea validation instead of blowing a whole lot of cash on a bogus idea. Okay? So let's get into it. PPC testing is all about getting in front of potential customers fast, presenting your idea, and looking for validation. I'm going to cover two specific areas. The first one is search intent targeting, and the second one is demographic targeting. And I'll tell you why they're so different and how you can use both of these to validate your ideas. So the first thing I did was I actually went to AngelList, and to help contextualize all this knowledge for you, I went and picked up a startup. And so there's a startup in the States called GetViable. GetAround are basically the Airbnb for cars. So instead of going around and renting a car from Hertz or Budget, you can kind of find somebody who's in your local area, and you can kind of say, okay, cool, I'll rent their car, right? So this is going to be our example throughout the whole lightning talk. GetAround, pretty cool site, rent a car from somebody nearby. So the first one, search intent targeting, and we use primarily Google AdWords. So the first thing is, you are identifying people or potential customers by the searches they make online. So you're specifically looking at what searches they're making through a search engine like Google, okay? So that's how you actually identify who your potential target audience would be. So it's something like this, rent a car, you kind of type it, there's a whole lot of ads there on the side. So step one, figure out what search terms your solution should appear in. So if you guys have used a tool like this, there's a Google AdWords tool. So Google AdWords tool basically allows you to find what sort of search terms are being used by people online through search engines like Google and see what sort of traffic there is. So the first thing you want to do is you want to type your keywords there in that number 1 section. You then want to choose a country. So if you're an Australian-specific startup, you want to choose Australia. If not, you want to kind of go US. And then I'm not going to explain to you the difference between broad, match, and phrase because I've got to get through 47 slides. But just choose exact and choose phrase, okay? And then you'll see all your results that come up there. Okay, cool. So some examples. Let's say, for example, you'll get around and you're like, okay, cool. How about I test my ads based on the keywords peer-to-peer car rental? Is that good? No, you fail. Why do you fail? Because traffic numbers per month are too small. There's only 210 searches in the US. It's way, way, way too small. You're not going to be able to find any actionable data from that. Let's do another one. Budget car rental. If you kind of choose that keyword, would that work? No, you fail. Again, because budget is the name of a competitor. Searchers looking specifically for your competitors will contaminate your data integrity because you don't know whether people are not clicking on your ad because they're not looking for a cheap option, or maybe they're just looking for budget, so you don't want to contaminate your data. What if the keyword's car rental? Well, you win. The reason why you win is because big traffic numbers, okay? So that means you can test the market very quickly. The only thing is that it's a highly competitive search term. So that means you've got to be prepared to pay a bit more money in order to get that done. So you've got to choose really carefully what sort of keywords you decide to run your ads for to test your market. Another example is last-minute car rental. Would this be good? Yeah, of course it's a win. It's a win because it's greater specificity, it's strong traffic because it's 1,300 per month, and you get a great opportunity to test a specific market because maybe your idea for GetAround is actually to target people who need last-minute car rentals. So those people who will go to Hertz and get charged the arm and a leg, instead they can come to you. So you know then that your idea is around last-minute car rentals. Again, the whole idea is about picking the right sort of keywords. So there are other keywords too that you can use. You can use Google Suggest, where you can kind of type things in and there'll be suggestions. There's Uber Suggest, which is a great tool which mines basically all sorts of suggestions. And there's Suval as well, which uses Google, YouTube, Bing, Yahoo. There's a whole lot of stuff here. If you want to kind of know what they are, you can come and talk to me later. Again, 47 slides, 5 minutes, not a lot of time. Step 2, setting up your ads. All right, let's go. So first, make sure you click search network only. You're not interested in the display network because the click-through rates are very, very small and it's not hyper-targeted. The next thing you want to do is you want to put up ads. Now, in terms of ads, you need to make sure that your ads are very specific around what you're trying to say around your idea. You'll see there that I've gone, save on car rentals, rent cars from people nearby, full insurance minus the high fees. So it's very, very specific. I don't tell people that I'm a car rental company. I'm telling them specifically what the idea is, and I'm telling them this is why you should click. So you need to be able to do that so that every click actually validates the idea around your startup. If you're kind of posing as a rental company, that doesn't validate anything because people are coming to your site expecting that you're a rental company. Ad tips, straight to the point. Specify one way that you're different. Example, rent cars from neighbors. Leverage location targeting. So if you're going to test something, let's say you're in the US and you don't have a lot of money, maybe consider doing something like only targeting the New York area or the San Francisco area, so that you have a smaller pool, but then you don't have to spend as much money. Use separate landing pages. So when people click through on an ad, go to a specific landing page, make sure that they match up. So for example, if your ad says no high fees for full insurance, then make sure that your landing page says no high fees for full insurance. And also include target keywords in ad text. Google highlights this and it catches the eye. Cool, step 3, measuring success. How do you measure success? Strong click-through rates, okay? So on normal sort of average sort of calculations, you want a click-through rate of over 1%, but because you guys are basing a whole business on this, you want strong click-through rates. So you're gonna look at something like 3 to 5% sort of click-through rates on your ads. You want strong conversion rates on your landing pages, so people that actually sign up for an email to be notified when your startup launches is a good thing. Don't be overly concerned with your cost per click because this is testing, right? You don't really care how much you're paying for a click. You want to see whether there's actual validation. Okay, cool. Demographic targeting, okay? So now we've talked about search intent targeting. Let's talk about demographic targeting. What's the difference? Demographic targeting is about identifying potential targets just by the fact of who they are. It doesn't matter what they search, it's just by the fact of who they are. Facebook ads rock at demographic targeting, okay? To give you an example, I'm Get Around. I want to target college guys. So I want to target a guy who's maybe 20 to 26 years old. Is single, clearly, very, very single. Is in the US. Likes road trips, not the movie, but the actual activity. And is a fan, or at least likes these brands, which are my competitors, right? So you're kind of wondering, oh, wow, okay, so this is a pretty hyper-specific group of people. Am I really going to be able to find these people? You bet your ass you're going to find them. There's 196,000 people in the States who are interested in all those things, and you know that because of Facebook ads. Again, you can target people just by the very fact of who they are. So in order to do this sort of stuff, you need to understand your audience intimately. So use things like Wikipedia, use things like Google Display Network Ad Planner or Follower Wonk or all these things. Again, I don't have time to run into all these things, but the whole idea is that immerse yourself into who you think your target customer will be, figure out what's the sort of things that they will like, and then go and run ads for them. So for example, and I'm doing a whole lot of, oh, where are we going? Yeah, cool, all right, I'll click one more time. For example, I used to work for an e-commerce company where we sold telescopes, so we ran Facebook ads for people who like Star Trek. We went from 300 fans to 21,000 fans in 3 weeks. That's how you build an audience, okay? Cool. All right, use questions. So this is an example of an ad, right? So again, need to rent a car, stop paying high fees to rental companies, rent a car from your neighbor today and save. Again, use questions. Questions are really, really good. Try lots of images, always sell your unique difference, and aim for action. This isn't show and tell. Don't tell them, ta-da, this is who we are. It's like, tell them, click on this ad, come through to our landing page, do something, right? You want to assess the intentions behind people clicking on your ad. Ad tips, test lots of different customer personas, so always try different things. Do not be vague in your ads, be very specific. Be relentless about finding new interest groups, because those are different personas that could be your target customer, okay? Forget about targeting broad interests. So Facebook gives you an opportunity to target broad interests. You don't care about this, right? You're only caring about testing. And watch for ad fatigue. Who here sees the same ads in their Facebook feed all the time? Oh, nobody? No, I do. Okay, I do. Well, anyway, once you start seeing them a lot, you start ignoring them. So make sure that you swap around your ads fairly regularly. How do you measure success? Strong click-through rate, so you're looking for a click-through rate of at least 0.1 and above. If you get like 1 to 2%, you're doing really, really, really ridiculously well. And you want strong conversion rates on your landing pages again. So, why use PPC for idea validation? It's a fast feedback loop. You get data straight away. It's very little effort. You don't have to put too much work. You don't have to go around and call people or run around and talk to people. It's very measurable because obviously everything comes out in numbers. And it's extremely targeted. 5 minutes, how to validate an idea using PPC. Thank you.
Thanks, Ivan. We're just going to open up to the floor for 2 or 3 minutes for some questions if anyone's got one. And if you yell it out, yes, my man.
Where can we get the slides?
Where we get the slides?
Yeah, very good question. They're going to go up on SlideShare by tomorrow. So I will shoot through a link. Maybe Scott can post it up or something like that. Yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Yeah, what would you call a strong click-through rate on your conversion page?
Sorry, could you say that again?
A strong click-through rate on your conversion page.
Strong conversion rate on your conversion pages.
Yeah, sure. So you definitely want a conversion rate of more than 1% on a normal sort of page. But again, you're looking for around 3 to 4%. It depends on how much traffic that you're actually getting. So you want to drive a significant amount. But if you're getting like, 1,000 people coming to your page and only like 50 people are signing up, that's a pretty strong indication that your messaging's not right, the idea isn't quite right. But if you're getting, a conversion rate of like 20% of people who are actually coming to the page, liking the idea, and actually signing up, that's a really, really good sort of strong indication, yeah.
Last question. Anyone? From the cheap seats at the back? Anyone? No? Okay. Thanks, Ivan.
Cool.
Give him a round of applause. Good presentation. Our next lightning talk is Leslie Barry, and his topic is finding problem-solution fit through customer interviews. And just like PPC or customer interviews, I've also used tools online. There's a whole lot of online research organisations that will survey a sample, and you can define that sample, whether it's 18 to 24-year-olds in regional Victoria who own a washing machine. And there's a lot of these companies out there, and you can crunch them on a deal too. You can spend $1,000 with them and get 200 or 300 respondees, and it looks good to investors, looks good to customers. So there's lots of solutions out there as well. So I'll leave it up to Leslie for his take on it. Okay.
Hi, thank you. So, as you said, I'm going to be talking about finding problem-solution fit using customer experience. I just want to share briefly some of our experience around this. So, problem-solution fit is very simple. We work with a lot of startups over the last sort of few years, and the number one problem that they all do is skipping problem-solution fit. And that is very simply trying to find out if you have a problem, a real problem that's really worth solving for real customers that will give you money. And you'll be surprised how many skip that come to us immediately with all sorts of solutions and things drafted out, and they haven't done this very important step. So I just want to give you some pointers around this. So how do you know if a problem's worth solving? Well, a few tips on that is, number one, make sure you can identify your customers very specifically. Who is that particular customer? As the previous speaker said, it could be a 27-year-old male who likes budget car rental. You need to be that specific around what you're doing to understand it. You need to get your customer to confirm that what you're building is a must-have. A lot of things we see are nice, they're not really solving a problem, it's a hobby, you feel good about it, but you're actually not solving a real problem, and it's not a really burning need for this customer. You need to also understand around what are the minimum solution features. So do you have a concept in your mind around being able to solve this particular problem? The other test, of course, is the customer willing to pay? So will they part with money for this? And at that point, then you can understand that whether you have the ability to build a business around this. So of course, my first startup, we didn't do any of this. Okay. In 2005, we built a business to do exercise, fitness, and health tracking. We knew that we knew everything. We knew there was a problem because 10 of us had it. And we went off and built something, built an awesome product, got a whole team around it, spent a lot of money. Nobody came, nobody cared. So how do you avoid doing that? Very simply, the fastest way to learn anything is talk to real live customers. So we read a lot of what Ash Maria from Running Lean is doing and what the startup luminaries say around this. And it sounds really simple once again, and it sounds very basic, but it's really about talking to your customer. You can do pay-per-click and you can do all these things at a certain point and all have their place, but most people will do everything in their power. Hello.
Sorry, that's it?
Dead. Okay, so most people will do everything in their power to completely avoid talking to a customer. It's much easier for entrepreneurs like us to roll up the sleeves, get in there, build something, do analytics, look at click stats, look at all these things, but run online surveys and avoid talking to the customer. You have to talk to the customer. Some basic things around talking to the customer. Steve Blank, who writes a lot about this, his favorite saying is, get out of the building. And it sounds really simple, but this means getting out of the building, talking face-to-face to people that aren't your friends, that aren't your family, that don't by default automatically think you're really awesome and will absolutely love whatever comes out of your mouth because they don't want to upset you. It has to be 2 or 3 people removed based on the demographic who will give you some honest feedback, or as honest as you can expect from them. It's around measuring the results, and I'll show you a template now of how to ask these questions and not going on your gut and on your feelings. And a really good pointer is to get to 30 to 60 people. That's a good sample. And your objective here is not to sell them around how good your product or your solution is, but to learn from them. Keep quiet, listen, and learn and understand what they're telling you. So this is a good format that is based on Ash Maria's Running Lean product, which is the problem questionnaire. And all you're trying to do here is get out to talk to your customers and understand one thing, which is how do you currently deal with these problems? So if it's a problem worth solving, your customer already has it, you need to understand in detail how are they solving it at the moment. What this does for you, it helps you mitigate risk around the product, the market, and around the customer. And once you've iterated through this a few times and learned and adjusted what you think your solution looks like, then you can go on to the solution questionnaire. And this is where you take a mock-up, a very basic mock-up. It can be PowerPoint, it can be something you've drawn, it can be many forms of this, and get a prototype together and take this back to these customers and ask them try and solve the other simple problem, which is your solution significantly better than what they're currently doing? Because to move to your product, they have to go through a lot of pain. They have to change behaviors, they have to change a whole bunch of things. So your product has to be a quantum leap above the way they're currently solving it. So why is this worth doing? Well, the exercise business that we started and wasted a year of our lives and thousands of dollars on, we eventually figured out that what we need to do is get out of the building, go and talk to the customer, understand who the customer is. And the customer wasn't who we thought it was by any stretch of the imagination. And we discovered that our customers in this example wanted podcasts. So this was around 2006, because they wanted to listen to how to do their exercises, not track and measure what they were doing. What this gave us was a really successful exit to a textiles company in 2007. It distributed 800,000 podcasts. It was a major pivot point in our business. So if I encourage you to take one thing away from this evening, it is don't skip this step. You'll find a million reasons to skip it. You'll save thousands and thousands of dollars. If you're at this stage of your business and you're busy building something or assembling a team or doing any of these things, stop immediately, get your problem questionnaire sorted out, go and talk to your customers and figure out what they really want. Okay, so some good material to read about this are those 3 books there, 4 Steps to the Epiphany, Lean Startup, and Running Lean. If you're too lazy to read any of those, we've taken the Running Lean content, we've put it into the GetViable product, and we'll step and guide you through that online. It's free for startups, so thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions from the room? I agree with a lot of that stuff. It's amazing. Any questions? Who in their own minds thinks their idea is amazing and it's going to take on the world, but they haven't tested it yet? I think there's probably a few more here. Yeah, you've got a question. How do you get people to take your questionnaires and get them engaged, and any tips around that?
So the best thing to do is, in this example, we thought our customer was the person going to the gym to do a workout, and it turned out that it was actually the personal trainer. But the way we learned that was to first identify them and actually write down the questions, get an actual questionnaire. No, it's very old school. Walk into the gym, talk to the people around there, talk to anyone who will stop and listen to you, and most people will participate. Some tips around it is ask very open-ended questions. Don't ask questions that will validate what you want to ask. So people will very easily say yes or no. But if you say, you know, how would you be willing to use this on a daily basis? Would you pay $50 to use it? Yes, yes, yes. Give me $50 now. No? Well, those kinds of questions. So there are some really good ways to ask those questions. Absolutely. So if you look in Running Lean, there's a lot of tips around exactly this and in our product. But it's not statistical questions. It's really questions to verify that your concept makes sense at a level and to see if there's any resistance to do it. It's really just to get a snapshot. And it teaches, it's less about the questions and more about the exercise of thinking through the process of who is the customer, how do you get to the customer, how would they buy this, would they buy it, is there a problem, is there a solution, etc. Okay, sure.
Any other questions? Feature.
In a two-sided market, who do you interview? Both sides of the market or someone who's playing?
How are you? Vijay was asking, in a two-sided market, who do you interview? Are you talking about a wholesaler, end user, or what are you talking about?
Designs, maybe. Yeah,
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay, so someone like 99 Designs or one of those companies. Hard question. So what you do is you've got to find what we call the early adopter. So who's the person who's going to be your passionate seeder of this idea, who's feeling the most pain? So in 99 Design's case, it was less, I'm guessing, it was less the freelancers that were supplying the work, because that was an existing marketplace, but it was people trying to find quality designs at a low price in a packaged, crowdsourced kind of way. So I would try and identify those people. And your early adopters are not necessarily your future customers. They're just the people who passionately believe in what you're doing, and they'll give a lot of feedback. But at a point, you might actually end up abandoning them for the bigger marketplace. But they will give you a lot of learning. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, give Leslie a round of applause. There's lots of online resources about marketing, whether you're a tech guy, whether you're a finance guy, there's loads of this stuff that covers market research and how to write unbiased surveys. That's my background, sort of internet research and marketing and stuff like that. So there's lots of researches, but it should be added to your kit bag. As they say, nothing happens in the world till something is sold, but you've got to know what they actually want. So our next lightning talk speaker is Ophelia Leckhart. She's going to talk about observe your users in the wild, where the wild things are. Ophelia? Round of applause.
Hi everyone, my name is Ophelia and I'm marketing lead at Flippa. Now you've heard about 99 Designs just a second ago. Flippa is started from the same company called SitePoint, and we're the world's biggest marketplace for buying and selling websites. We grew from a really small offshoot project. It started out with 2 guys in a small office, and today I want to talk to you about how we became the company that we are today and how we validated our early ideas into a company that employs about 16 people in Melbourne. So I've been with Flippa for just under 2 years, and here's the biggest thing I've learned. Whoops, that's not it. Go back. Couple more. Couple more. Yeah, so that kind of ruined my punch. Something's going on.
How's that?
No, one more. Yeah, when people talk, great things happen. So that's really the crux of what I'm going to say today, and that's not for me, as you saw earlier. I think I've just been watching too much Hulu with American commercials. That's actually a Wells Fargo Bank in the US. And you know, something's pretty obvious when a bank is using it in their advertising. But still, you see a lot of startups that are afraid of people and do not want to talk to them and fear that when people talk, terrible things happen and they get criticized, and no good and no creativity necessarily comes from it. So customers, for a lot of people, are still something to hide from. We heard about it earlier in Leslie's talk. So technical founders might not want to have anything to do with actual customers, and non-technical co-founders might think their idea is so brilliant and so obvious that they don't need customer validation before they hit the market. So at Flippa, we actually validated our ideas from day one. Actually, to go back a little bit, we validated way before we actually became a company. We're still validating today, but here's a quick history of Flippa. So this is the SitePoint message boards, started in 1998 as webmasterresources.com, became SitePoint, and it was the largest message board for asking questions about technical web development. So this is the place where people who were building the web in the late 90s and the early 2000s were really going to get answers to their questions. There were a group of designers in this that started running design contests. They would say, hey, what if I had this company or this idea? What would you build me as a logo? And over time, that actually became actual companies going to SitePoint message boards to say, hey, can you design me a logo, and I'll get a few different ideas and pay the best one. We've already heard what that became. Guys, you're killing me. Go back. Yeah. Yeah, that became 99 Designs. 99 Designs is now a huge team. They've still got a team here in Melbourne. They have a team in San Francisco. They opened an office in Singapore. They acquired a Berlin company and rolled that into their company. So they're huge now, and they're running design contests all over the world every day. So that was in 2007. Around this same time back at SitePoint, they observed a really interesting dynamic. The same people that a couple years before were coming there to learn about how to run their website and develop it were now saying, well, I kind of want to sell this website now, and who's going to give me a couple hundred for it? And that became a couple thousand. And eventually there were informal auctions that came about, and people started selling their websites on SitePoint. Yeah, no, one more. Back, back, back. That is when we launched Flippa. We actually launched Flippa exactly 4 years ago this week. And that was our very beautiful 2009 version. And that's our actual marketplace today. Now you'll notice in the bottom corner, we've sold $103 million in websites. Websites and domain, but mostly developed money-making business websites. So remember, people were actually buying and selling websites before we even came along. They started doing it naturally in their own habitat, which was these SitePoint message boards. We just came along and stole the great idea. That's what I'm getting at with this. The whole idea is to observe your customers in the wild, see what they're doing. What are they already doing? How can you step in and offer assistance and multiply their efforts and multiply their returns? People know what they like. People, they're already talking all over the internet and in real life. Your job is to listen. Leslie covered this a little while ago. Your job isn't to pitch. Pitching is fun, and we all enjoy refining our elevator pitch and getting to the very, very center of our idea. But even better is to listen to what people are saying around you. How do we do this at Flippa? Well, one of my jobs as marketing lead is to run the Flippa blog. We publish 8 articles a week. I have a team of 12 writers. We have a huge list of interesting topics, but every week I still need to find a lot more ideas. And the way I find these ideas is by looking at what people are already talking about online. So this is experiencedpeople.co.uk, actually. And as they describe, they are the world's #1 forum for anything to do with buying and selling websites. I would really like to refine that a little bit. I find it pretty long. But they're already talking about how to buy and sell websites. And all I have to do is go in and scoop up their interesting ideas and the questions that they still have unanswered to develop really interesting content. For anyone who's doing content marketing, the forums are absolute gold. This is another one. They're called Warrior Forum. They have many, many thousands of users every day posting questions. I think they have about 150 subsections where you can go and ask questions and get answers and find topics. Another way to do this, how many people are here tonight, Scott? Like 300 or so? Yeah. About that? This is a really good place to talk to people. Get out of the house, as we were talking about before. Talk to people, ask them questions, listen into what their conversations are. What are their troubles? Somebody was talking earlier about the trouble with naming a startup. That's something we've heard about all the time. So somebody heard that piece of trouble and decided, yeah, I can do something to solve this. One thing we noticed over at Flippa is that people were exchanging messages, private messages, and saying, well, you know, I just bought this website. I'm not quite sure how to do SEO on it. I need help with design. I need a web developer on hand. Could you maybe help me out? So last week we launched the Flippa Classifieds, which is just that, a place to bring all these conversations together and get people talking to each other where they were talking about the same thing, but in private messages before. And we got a really interesting tweet over the weekend that was, hold on. I grossed $2,919.96 this week from a $5 classified ad on Flippa. So this is a guy that was already doing the same work. All we did was listen to what he needed, and we gave it to him in the Flippa Classifieds. So you might say, great, but I don't have 300,000 users yet, which is the number of registered users on Flippa. And I know, I get it. I've been at presentations where you have someone in front and they say, oh, well, I do this with my endless budget, and I have all these users that I can ask validation from. But remember, we started out with 2 guys in a really small office. And there's a top secret internet site where you can go to find groups, really targeted groups of people to talk to and to ask these questions. And you all know it. Meetup. All the information about tonight's meetup was on meetup.com. Let's say that you run a fitness business, or you're interested in getting into the fitness space. Well, I found 127 meetups in Melbourne, in the Melbourne area, that were about meetups. There are hundreds of members in most of these, and they meet every single day of the week. You can find a group of people talking about fitness. You can do this for any type of niche on the internet, and find your people. And if you can't find your people, you have to ask, are you looking in the right places? Are you targeting your search well enough? Are you listening to what they're saying? Going back to Leslie's talk, not necessarily going in with a pitch, not necessarily going in with questions right away, but listening in on their conversations. And finally, if you really can't find your people, you might not be creating a solution for a problem that actually exists. And that's it for me. My contact info is there, and are there any questions?
Any questions, please? Yeah.
When you're scouring for blog content, how do you give attribution or credit to sources?
The question was, when you're scouring for blog content, how do you attribute the original author or so forth?
That's a really good question. One thing that I'm getting a lot of inspiration from right now is our user comments on the blog. And usually what I'll do with that is I'll credit the original comment. I usually have the email address of the user who sent it in, so I can send them a link or ask permission if it's a detailed comment that has information about their business, for example. If it's just a forum thread, well, the idea isn't to rip off the title of the forum thread and to just turn that into a blog post, or to take all the great ideas that were submitted in there and spin that off into a blog post. The idea is to get general ideas around topics that people are going to be interested in. So in those cases, you don't really need to attribute the idea, although if it's a really insightful thread, I'll link directly to it so people can see the background behind it and get the answers directly from that source as well.
Any other questions? Last chance. All good? A round of applause for our last speaker. Well done. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is Ben Fornerino, all about collaborative design. It's been a hot topic for a long time, and Ben's going to actually tell you how to do it properly. All right, good luck.
I'm going to try. All right. So, I'm quite sure that I'm going to need a driving lesson with this. Bear with me. So, what I wanted to speak with you guys about tonight was a method that I've tried a lot of times that I find works really well and is really fun, and that you don't need any experts to do. And it helps you to quickly explore the world of your customer, get under their skin, and come up with ways to make things better for them. I totally need a driving lesson.
Every click on just the left-hand side, just a touch.
Right.
Like,
got it.
okay.
Those are my feet on my wedding morning, but it's a metaphor for putting yourself in someone else's shoes. So that's really, I'm glad that Ophelia went before me, because she's given you all lots of great ideas about how to find your customers and get in touch with them, and then your next obvious step is getting them in, because that is not the right way. Sure. Thanks. Oh man, Game of Thrones spoiler. I hate that. Okay, so this is the next slide anyway. If you're not next to your customer, then there are some ways that you can play pretend. And the empathy map is a really nice tool that you can explore with them or pretending to be them, where you try and go through a visceral sensory experience. It's as much about thinking, as much about feeling as it is about thinking the experience of the customer. Sorry, what I should say is, through the course of the method, your job is basically to ponder what your customer is doing through each of those little segments and frame your responses. Now, onto the Game of Thrones. The next step is contextualizing. So you've started to get a sense for your customer. Now you want to get a sense for the world in which they inhabit or the problem space that they inhabit. And this could be a number of different things. This could be a work process or a week, or it really depends on the problem that you've picked and the way that you intend to address it. But what that might look like is an experience map. So in this case, we've taken an existing service and made it clear to us what the existing steps are and overlaid that onto the steps that a customer's described to us. So there's any number of ways to approach this problem, but it's super, super quick to start building up a model of the customer context. Once you've got that model, you want to find the stink bombs and find the moments of opportunity. What I like about this baby is that I'm not sure if he's just seen a moment of opportunity or doing a stink bomb. But anyway, I'll backtrack now that I've learned to drive. And you can see that in our process, we've marked up a few stink bombs and a few questions or moments of opportunity. And they often come because the customer that you're working with says, oh man, I hate it when this happens. Or, oh God, it would be so awesome if you could, handle that for me. Or, find a different way to do this painful thing. So with your list of painful things and your list of moments of opportunity, the next step is just simply framing a set of design challenges. And a good pattern for that is, how might we, blah, blah, blah. How might we help freelancers not have to, how might we help freelancers avoid clients from hell? How might we make it easier for freelancers to get paid quickly? So then it's basically a choice of picking the good stuff, a matter of picking the good stuff. And a really effective method for choosing stuff in a group of people is dot voting. And you can vote on any number of bases. It could be purely on the instincts of the group. It could be on the basis of a set of trade-off sliders that you've framed at the start of the conversation. It could be on a set of business drivers that you know are important for your business to be successful. So everyone holds that intent in mind and then votes away, and off you go. Now, the fun part, the sketching. Everyone can do this and everyone's an artist. It's the materials that you need for this process are super minimal. You need butcher's paper. You need a fat black texter. You need a medium black texter. You need a fine black pen. This guy, the grey, is really, really nice for pushing stuff to the back. And this guy, the bright yellow, is fun to see on butchers, but also very useful for highlighting cool ideas and lifting stuff out of an interface. So I'm going to dispense with my survival kit and take you on to the product of the warm-up. So a nice method for warming up can be as simple as having people draw a bunch of circles on a page. And for lots of people that you work with, especially if you're working with customers, this might be the first time that they've picked up a pen to draw for years. In fact, I did a workshop at a sports organisation, and the guys that I was working with there, I would have placed them at 50 or 60, and it was like one of the biggest sporting brands in Australia. So I doubt that these guys were doodling and drawing when they were 4 years old, let alone at 50 or 60. But once they got into the process of squiggling around, they really came to life. And what we took from that day was excellent. Another really, really useful way of warming up that fits well into a web-based solution is the notion of squares. And this gives people a way to test using the survival kit and to see how they can lift stuff up to the front, how they can push stuff back, and basically gives them the driving lesson that I clearly needed at the start of my talk. Now you've warmed up, it's about the ideas. And the first part is shameless. You want to really, really go for it. You've struck upon your design challenge, and now it's not about being sexy, despite what he would have you think. It's about getting as many ideas out there as you can. You want to deconstruct existing processes, play with resequencing things, play with different solutions, play with different ways of presenting information or presenting the problem. A good target for this process is to fill up a box of 6 squares, and that way you've got some assurance through the process that you're really getting as many ideas out from the group that you can. So that's an example of what fat can look like when it's on butchers. Once you've done the fat, you want to start thinking skinny. And so at the end of your fat drawing, you want to share back with everyone else that's been going through the exercise. And what you'll find is like fairly sparky conversations at that point. People are pretty excited about some things. The stuff that people are nonplussed about fades into the background. Capture the excitement and go straight into the next step of really, really converging all of the ideas that were good into something as specific as possible. What that looks like can be something like this. So you don't need to be too precious about whether you're sketching a solution at a page level or a process level or a component level. It could be any of those things, and it really depends on the problem that you're addressing. But basically, the conversation that you have before, after all the ideas are shared, will guide what the appropriate zoom level is for you for this next step. Now, no presentation is complete without high five, but basically the last step, and I won't talk too much about it, is getting feedback on the models that you've generated through the process. If you're working with customers, you've had feedback all the way through. They've been part of the process. If you haven't done it with them, then find a way to get in front of them really, really quickly. Because a process like this, you can go through a beginning and an end of this process in half a day, and sometimes the feedback and the fidelity of the solution that you get is enough for you to have some really, really valuable information to have confidence about the actual solution that you're going to go with. Sometimes you might choose to invest more in building up the solution that you've had based on the ideas that you flushed out. Often, half a day of that is enough for you to end up with something that you can put in front of customers the next day as well. So this is a really, really quick cycle, and I would encourage you not to be too precious about the output, because it's about getting stuff in front of people and getting feedback, as we've learned all the way through this evening. High five, go away. Collaborative design. It's just really a recap of the process that I've walked you through. This is a bit of a pointer to some other resources that you might find helpful. Business Model Canvas we've heard about earlier tonight. Gamestorming is a book on workshopping ideas and methods, which is very, very helpful. Jason Fennell's blog, I consider Jason to be the father of the collaborative design process. He introduced it to me. He's working on a really exciting and interesting product at the moment called Rooms.com, which is basically the Airbnb of the share home space. If you check his blog, I'm pretty sure that he still has the method cards for collaborative design available, and what you haven't taken from my talk, you'll certainly take from that reference point. Or you can contact me, Ben Fornerino. I work for Envato. That's my email address. This is my shameless plug. I work specifically for a company called Microlancer, and we're here to take all the pain away for designers and diviners, and soon developers as well. And I should mention that any of you small business folks that need creative services or digital services and don't have the talents for yourself might find someone that does on Microlancer. That's it from me. Thank you.
Give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get our next speaker. Well done. Our next speaker is Luke McCormack, and it's all about picking up the phone. Who here has been in a call centre during university? Come on, we all have. Who's been in outbound? Cold calling? calling an old lady to donate to a charity. Have you been there? It's tough stuff. But as a startup guy, you've actually got to pick up the phone. You've got to get through that receptionist, get through the PA, and have a convincing story to tell the CEO. You can call the president of a company if you've really got the guts, you've really got the story. I've done it. So Luke here is going to talk about all that sort of stuff. So give him a round of applause.
Going to adjust the microphone because I'm a short ass. That's the wrong one. All right, so there we go. I also work for Flippa, so it's turning into a little bit of a Flippa fest this evening, so apologies for that. So I guess my lunch has kind of been cut a couple of times tonight already, so hopefully I can add a little bit of a value. I know it's getting warm in here, so I'll try not to take up too much of your time. So I've worked for, I guess, a couple of little fairly shit startups. So one of those was a entrepreneurial networking organisation called The Hive, which there's a few faces in here that have been there. And when I say a few shit startups, The Hive's not around anymore, so I'll leave it at that. Also worked for an interesting, I guess, marketplace called Rentoid.com, run by a very interesting bloke called Steve Sammartino. Rentoid is I guess, a marketplace for peer-to-peer renting. So instead of buying and selling products, you rent products. And then more recently, I have started working with Flippa, and specifically working on, I guess, a new little startup inside an existing startup called Dealflow. So I've already heard from Ophelia in regards to exactly what it is that Flippa does. So Dealflow is focused on the top end of the market, so designed to connect our high-end buyers, I guess, with our high-end sellers. So really focusing on that premium end of the market. So I guess what I wanted to talk about tonight is not so much cold calling, but more, I guess, the point before you start cold calling. So kind of the bit after what Leslie talked about, where you kind of identify exactly who your target market is, and then you actually start you've got your idea and you I guess begin to validate it before you pour a lot of time and effort into it. So that purely is picking up the phone. So one of the things that I did at Dealflow before we launched the product was I had just shy of 100 phone calls with our target market. So that was pretty easy for us because we already had a database of 300,000 people, as Ophelia mentioned. So I basically just kind of identified exactly who our target market was from that database, and then went out and had conversations with all of those people. So I'll kind of get to how you can do that if you don't have a huge database in a moment, but essentially what you want to be talking to your target market about is kind of what, and we've kind of heard it all tonight before, but what their problems are, what they want solved, then kind of float the idea in front of them of your concept or your solution to those problems, and just kind of see what the feedback is. So going through the process of launching Dealflow for Flippa, it was hugely insightful having these conversations. So it actually, to the point where it actually influenced our pricing. So we had kind of all these preconceived notions about exactly how the product would look and feel, and the conversations that we had with our audience or our target market actually changed a number of elements about the product. So I guess the benefits of picking up the phone and having a conversation with a real person at the end has a number of benefits. So one of them is it can actually sort of have a huge impact on the way that you think about your business. And I guess as a sort of lead into that, it actually sort of pulls into clarity the exact problem that you're solving. So once you're actually talking to your end customer, unless you're in consulting or you run a retail business, that's quite rare. So it really changes the way that we think about our business. And I guess the other thing about actually picking up the phone rather than just having a bit of an email back and forth is there are a number of things that people will say live over the phone that they simply will never put in an email. So that's really valuable as well, kind of getting that sort of raw feedback, I guess, direct from the exact person you're talking to. And as I said, it can really change things about your business, everything from kind of the pricing, even right down to whether you should kind of continue on with the business. So the thinking at Flippa for deal flow was, let's go and have these conversations with our users, and if sort of the value isn't there, then we'll just kill the idea and it can go into kind of the graveyard of ideas that we thought were good. So the kind of, I guess the simple takeaway from tonight is just pick up the phone and kind of tomorrow, later on this week, pick up the phone and have a conversation with one of your users, one of your customers, whatever it is. From a B2B perspective, that's really easy. So, you know, everything from LinkedIn to, you know, calling the company and just kind of working your way through gatekeepers. It's really simple to have a B2B conversation, and I've done it for a number of years at various businesses. The B2C conversation is a lot more difficult, purely because you don't have the list, you don't have a whole lot of I guess, background on what you're going to be sort of talking about. You're really coming in a lot colder than what you are for a B2B conversation. So some tips on a B2C conversation. If you don't have the list that I guess we already did at Flippa, tips on that is go out and find a business that has a similar list to what you want to work with, and do some kind of a joint venture with them. So talk to them about, you know, how you can add value to their business, if you can have a few conversations with some of their customers. As Ophelia mentioned, come to events like this and you know, have a chat with the audience. Also identify, so kind of coming back to the event thing, identify which events are going to be valuable to you and give stuff away at them. So what we've kind of done in the past at various other businesses is you kind of give stuff away to the audience. You know, it might be a free product or whatever it is, and you immediately start growing your database so you can kind of actually have those conversations. Set up some PPC ads, and then, you know, once you collect email addresses, collect phone numbers, and call some people and have conversations. And then some really crazy stuff that we've done in the past. So, for example, at rentoid.com, our mobile numbers were on the website. So we would get phone calls at 3 a.m. from the States, and we'd kind of roll out of bed and answer kind of customer support questions. So just do crazy stuff like that, and try and get out and have conversations with your users. So I won't take up any more of your time. I know it's hot in here, so thank you very much for your time.
Round of applause for Luke, ladies and gentlemen. Well done. And just to thank Blue Chili, they're the guys that help you build the technology in your startup, one of our sponsors. Alphastation, they're all about your investor documentation and communications. The Kussowski Brothers, video makers to the stars. And of course, Inspire 9, the guys who have this building here. So it's a great collaborative space. And SmartStartCity, of course. Well done, David. I enjoyed your speech. Mashup of corporate data, smart people and urban challenges. And they've got a meeting coming up shortly, so look on their website. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you at the next Lean Startup. Grab a beer. Network, network, network.